All right, here we are back again for lesson 3 on our bin window. When I'm sorting clips, probably this is the way I would like to see them. But when I'm actually editing and working with the clips, I will probably choose the view where I'm seeing more text-based information. And this is an option that is a little bit more difficult to work with when you're just working with one video monitor. It's hard to see all the text information that is available. But if you are working with two monitor setup, well, you can dedicate one whole monitor to just your bin window, and that will give you a whole lot more room to display a lot of text information about your clip. And a couple things to note: you can define the width of any of this information. You can add a lot more information to this. Just go up, take your mouse and go up to the top tab here of this, and notice from the drop down list all of the other types of information that you can display about any of these clips that you're working with. For example, I will often want to have a comment section for each clip so that I can have the option of writing comments about clips as I look through them. However, I'll usually like to have that section right next to my clip. And so you can point to that field and drag that over, reposition it to any place that you want. So now I have it showing up right beside the clip name. And as we're working with our clips, if we see a clip that is really interesting and appealing, and we know that we want to probably use that in our program, then you might want to make a note of that. You could say something like great, or you could type in any text information here that might help you remember this particular clip for a later edit session. So it's very helpful to have a comment section. And we can't take the time to show you all of your options here. Clip color, what is that? Well, if there are certain types of clips that should be grouped together, or if you want to reference certain types of clips very easily visually on your timeline, well, you can change the color. Just right-click on the clip. We see one of our options is to change the clip color. So let's say you had a group of clips that you wanted to identify visually very quickly. Well, you could change them all to orange. Let's do a couple more. Let's see if we can do multiple clips. Select here. We see a little drop-down arrow popping up. Click on that and then choose the color you want those to go to. Now, when we drop any of these clips on our timeline, we'll see that they show up in a different color. And that can be helpful sometimes if you're attempting to organize your edit in a specific way. Clip type. So as you build your project, you might end up with a lot of still shots. You might end up with audio clips, graphics, and you can sort your media this way by clicking on the clip type. And because they're all video clips here, nothing happens, but you can sort through your media this way on clip type. Duration, that is something that I like to see visually. And so I often have the duration of a clip right next to my comment. I want to know how long each of these clips are. And this might be a better example of how we can sort clips by clicking on the field name at the top. Let's click on here. We'll see that we are now sorting our clips based on how long they are. And we see we've got a bunch here. I think this was from a previous tutorial when we were trying to bring in DVD clips from using our source browser, and they all ended up only being 1 second. Okay, but we've got a few more here that are only 1 second long. And usually these are clips where we started the camera rolling but realized that we didn't have a good focus, so we pressed the stop button right away. So, here's one, for example, that's way out of focus. And so we hit the stop button right away. So you could probably be very safe to just, pick anything that's 3 seconds long or less and select all of those and throw them in the trash. Okay, but click on it again and you'll see that the longest clip comes to the top. Okay, let's maybe point up to our top here again with our right mouse clip and see if there's any other important text-based information that we might want to show. Timeline reference count is kind of nice to see. Let's click on that as one of our options. And we see that by default it comes right in after comment. I might switch that over to show after duration. Now notice that when we drag a clip down to our timeline, that it shows us that this clip has 2 references on our timeline. And so as we're looking for clips, after you're a couple days into your project and you're looking for a great clip to cover a piece of narration, well, you can sort your bin on this timeline reference count and very quickly tell whether or not you've already used it in your program. And so, for example, after a couple of days of editing, you might have a whole bunch of shots being used in your program. And now, as you go to this bin and sort by timeline reference, well, you can very quickly see which shots you've already used. As you're looking for a great shot to cover some narration, you can very easily scroll down, eliminating the shots that show up as already being used in your program. The unfortunate thing about this nice little tool is that if you were to create a new sequence, let's say you wanted to create a different version of the program, this new version might be going in a completely different direction. However, you will not be able to use this little tool to determine whether or not you have used a clip in this new sequence. This shows you the reference for any instance of a clip being used in your project, regardless of what sequence you are using. So that's a little unfortunate. I wish that there was a timeline reference count that could be assigned to specific sequences. That would be much more helpful. If you're working with a lot of different cameras that have different media formats, different codecs, you might want to choose to show the container. And here it shows up here. Currently, all the ones we have are MOV files. Well, I think those are the main ones that I would probably use in any given edit situation. Just remember that if you are looking for more text-based information that isn't showing up here, you can check out the options there. Okay, let's take a closer look at the right-click option. Just right-click on any of your clips. Something that you might find helpful for any given clip that you would like to promote to become a AVI file in a Grass Valley codec. You can convert these MOV files to Grass Valley AVI files with this tool here. And here you can choose the type of codec that you would like it to go to, the online quality, offline quality. You could even choose Grass Valley lossless, uncompressed RGB. In most cases, what you would want is the HQ online quality, and then also select where you would like that clip to be saved. In most cases, it would probably be a good idea to go save it to your project drive. Perhaps it would even be good to have it inside the project folder. This is an interesting experiment. Let's try putting it right in the project folder and see if that will show up with a blue square. Let's hit save. Edius will take a moment to convert that clip. Now, because it's a clip that's 37 seconds long, it does take a little time here. But now, we'll see here in the container, that clip has been promoted to an AVI file. And there are several advantages of promoting clips to an AVI file. You will get more real time working with AVI files, especially when they're in the Grass Valley Canopus codec, but also you will have better options if you need to color correct the clip. These MOV files that come off these DSLR cameras are really only presentation format only. It's a highly compressed format. And if you need to do a lot of work with that clip in order to get it looking good, it is probably a good idea to promote that clip to an AVI file before you have to do a lot of color correction to it. Well, as I look at these, I don't see the blue square, but perhaps that's because we have chosen the text-based view of this. Let's go back to our thumbnail large and take another look at this. Yes, we see that the clip now shows up with the blue square. We see a green square as well. That is showing us that the clip is on the timeline when we're in this view mode. If we deleted it from the timeline, we see that the green goes away, but the blue indicates that it is indeed inside of our project folder. Okay, so good to know. Now, if you wanted to convert all of your clips to the Canopus Grass Valley HQ fine, I would recommend you do that before you start sorting all of these into folders, before you start organizing your clips. You remember how we had it at the beginning of our first tutorial where all of our DSLR footage had shown up in just the root folder of our bin. Well, what we could have done at that point is select all, and now when we do a right click on any one of these clips and choose the convert option, we see that in addition to just converting the file, one option is to choose a batch conversion. And if we click this option and confirmed the type of file that we want to save to and hit the save now, well, Edius would start the process of doing a batch conversion of all those files. Well, it's giving us a little warning and saying you're probably going to run out of disk space. These AVI files really do take up a lot of space on a hard drive, and so it's warning us that if we choose yes here, that we're probably going to run out of hard drive space, and that's not something that you want to do. So we'll select no, and what is probably a better approach if you want to promote your clips to AVI files, take the time, as I have illustrated in some other tutorials here, of going through all of your clips, choosing your best shots, choosing the ones that you know that you're really going to use, and exporting those in a batch export to AVI files, and then bring those AVI files into your project. Let's see if there's any other options that we could look at here. If you would like to discover quickly where any given clip is being stored on your hard drive, you could hit Explorer here, and that'll open up Windows Explorer and feature or highlight the clip. And then by going up at the top here and taking a look at the breadcrumbs that show up here, you can determine exactly where that clip is stored. Anything else? Well, I think we've probably looked at most of the options available to us here. And so just one more thing I'd like to point out. As you're sorting through your clips, you might want to take the time to choose your in and out points. As you scroll through a clip, you might see something that works. Now, this process might actually work better if we're using our detailed text. We can maybe sort according to duration so that our long clips are showing at the top. And here we see that we have a clip that is 6 minutes long. Well, what's going on in this clip here? Let's double click on it to bring it into our play window. Let's first of all do a quick scroll through here. Well, we see that we let our camera roll for 6 minutes as we have filmed these kids learning in a rote method from their teacher. You know, a lot of these schools out in remote villages just don't have textbooks, so the only real way that a teacher can teach her students is by saying something and then having the kids repeat it. So this is rote learning. However, as we go through this clip, we see that there are probably a lot of different shots here that we might be able to use. So what you can do, let's maybe open this up a little bit so that we have a larger timeline to work with, or play line we might call it. And let's choose, say, an in and out point here, or an in point, I should say, and then let's play it or scroll along to look for an out point, probably there. And once you have one good in and out point selected of that student, you can make what's called a sub-clip of that shot. There's an option over here to add sub-clip to bin. So click on that. You see it comes down to the bottom of our bin. Well, we could drag and drop that to students or rote learning. Okay, and then as we open this clip now, we see that its representation in our play window is only that portion of the clip with the in and outs of that one student. And it gives us a little bit of extra room on each end, kind of handles that we might want to work with for a dissolve or whatever. But then as we go back to the original clip, well, then we can grab our scroller here and look for another student, do an in and an out, and choose subclip again, and then drag that into our rote learning folder. And you get the idea. You can scroll through any long clip and make shorter subclips of anything that you find in that clip. And that makes it a little easier when you're working on an edit. You will be able to find these shots a lot easier. Another thing that you might do even with shorter clips, let's find some that are just kind of the normal length, 30 seconds or so, is that you can choose your in and out points. Now, you might want to have an assistant do this for you, or if you like to do all of the editing task yourself and you want to set this up, make it easier to work with, you could go through all of your clips and select your in and outs, maybe something like that for an out point. And now go on to your next clip and then point back to that. And notice that Edius has remembered your in and outs. One last thing that I might point out before we're finished here is that when you're sorting clips, you are not restricted to just choosing one bin for any given clip. For example, in this video, or at least on one of the videos that we're going to make with this material, we have a story about a young girl by the name of Flower. At least that's what her name is translated to English. It was something else in Karen, or we might say Flower's story. Now, when we go through our clips and we find shots of Flower in school, for example, let's sort these on clip name. That might be easier to find her. Yeah, here she is here in school. So now as we are going through our clips and we find shots of Flower in school, we may want to not only place this clip inside of the children at school at their desk. Maybe we've selected a good in and out point. This shot may be great for one video that deals with just education in Myanmar in general. And so we can drag and drop that from our play window now into our bin that shows children at their desk. But also at the same time, we know that it might be important for our video that we're going to do on this particular girl. And so we'll want to drag and drop that back into the bin about her. Now, we haven't actually copied that clip. We're not having actually two versions of this clip on our hard drive now. But what we're doing is just we're referencing the same clip on our hard drive in two different folders. Okay, well, I believe that does it for our video tutorials on working with the bin window. And it may have even been a little bit more information than what you wanted to know about our bin window options. But I believe that as you become more and more familiar with Edius and as you work with it more and more, that you will find it helpful to have access to all of those options that are available to you to help you organize your clips, organize your media, to get them ready for your edit. But for now, I believe that does it for organizing your media with the bin window.